Hello, everybody. This is Blake and Vish Sports, episode 7, I believe. And today we're going to be talking about some NFL and NBA hot topics. Main one's going to be the rookie receivers, and we're going to rank them and who we think are the best. Subscribe, share, follow with friends, family, get the word out. Vish, how have finals been so far? I know you've been busy with that.
Yeah, bro. They've been good. I think I did fine on most of them, but the awaiting your grade is the worst feeling, because you're constantly second guessing. Well, did I do those questions right? Did I study enough and all of that? So hopefully, once the grades come back, I feel good and I can just enjoy my break. I know you got finals coming up. How's the studying going?
Yeah, it's starting to pick up. So those are all next week. We'll see. I'm sure it'll all work out as long as I put in the work for that. But so today's episode, we did label it the rookie receiver class. But the first topic we wanted to talk about was the Eagles and the quarterback situation there. So Vish, what are your initial reactions and thoughts to seeing Jalen Hurts being named the starter?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of inevitable. They had to make the move. They've been talking about it for weeks. I believe in Carson Wentz a little bit more than the average person. He hasn't played well. His decision making is particularly awful. He often makes the worst possible decisions in the worst possible situation, but there's a lot of things wrong in Philadelphia. I don't like their play calling. I don't think it's very good. I don't think it's very creative. And their receivers are horrible. Their offensive line is terrible. It's pretty unfair to just put it on Carson Wentz. Hopefully Jalen Hurts, for their sake, is an upgrade, but I think he's going to struggle just as much because there's a lot of components to that offense that are bad. It's just a giant, big pile of bad.
I'm with you on that. And I remember during the draft when they drafted Hurts, I think everyone was really just taken away and confused. Why did they draft a quarterback in the second round when they just gave Wentz this huge deal? And it's starting to look like they thought that this might happen to Wentz, and maybe he isn't the guy who he was in 2017.
Yeah.
Maybe he is. That was his peak, and now he's just gonna come down back to average quarterback, turnover prone, and all that stuff. So I thought that part was interesting during the draft, and I'm with you. I think they had to do it. You don't draft a quarterback in the second round, and then your starting quarterback, when he starts playing terribly, you take him out. That's to be expected. But yeah, I think this was necessary, and I am excited to see because he does bring a component that Wentz doesn't have with his mobility. He is a really strong runner. He's fast. I know watching him at Bama, they would run quarterback powers all the time for him and just get him in space because he's that good of an athlete. I'm interested to see what they dial up for him specifically because that added element. And I am interested to see how he is as a passer. Playing from Bama's offense to the Eagles' offense it's a huge difference. So we'll see how he does. But
I mean, he improved as a passer, right, from his freshman year to when he was second year at Bama and then finally Oklahoma. But he's not the best thrower. Definitely wasn't drafted as a thrower. I mean, people were thinking that there's going to be a Taysom Hill element to their offense, but I think you hit the nail on the head. The fact that they drafted him in the second round told you that they didn't have the belief in Wentz that you thought they should have, or you thought that Wentz deserved. And, with Wentz, his physical talent is immense. Like you said, maybe he's not one of those top tier guys and he is just an average guy. I mean, his career says that's kind of what he is, but I'd argue just based on talent alone, he should be one of the top tier guys, and he has the ability to be, and somebody has to be able to maximize that ability, and maybe Philadelphia can't, but I really think you hit it on the head, and we'll see what Jalen Hurts does. I don't know if he can actually do anything to save what's happening. There's a lot bad with their offensive line. Their receivers are not good. Their play calling is not good. So at some point, I think that there's going to be culpability that's going to be handed around to everybody. And for last year, everybody else took it and Wentz didn't. This year, I feel like Wentz has kind of shouldered a lot of the blame, except from a few people who have defended him without. Yeah, they've defended him without fail. So we'll see. Ultimately, I think that the Eagles are just a giant mess, and I'm interested to see what's going to happen.
I am too. And speaking of, so I know we've talked about this before, but possible trade targets, where do you think he could end up getting traded to if the Eagles did go the route of saying, hey, we want to roll with Hurts, let's get this guy off our team? Like, where do you think are potential targets for him to land?
So for me, it's got to be Indianapolis. Frank Reich was the offensive coordinator in 2017. And the thing I've learned the last 2 years is that Frank Reich was the real smart guy in the room when it came to their offense. Indianapolis's offense is creative. It's good. He's really good. The Colts lucked into the fact that Josh McDaniels said no, and Frank Reich was just waiting there because he's very good. That's number one. And number two, from all accounts, it seems that Frank Reich totally believed in Wentz. Wentz is similar physically to Andrew Luck in terms of I don't think he's ever been as good as Andrew Luck, but he's similar in terms of his size, his athleticism, all of those types of things. So I think it would be a seamless fit for their offense. Frank Reich knows him. Wentz gets along with him. He might be able to rehabilitate and rebuild Wentz's confidence and get the quarterback that Wentz's physical skill set says he should be.
And, cap is a huge thing, and the Colts do have a lot of flexibility in who they want to acquire. They still have Phillip, but his contract ends this year. I think Brissett's ends this year, maybe the year following, but
I think they extended more
with Brissett.
Yeah, let me look it up. Continue.
Yeah, but I was gonna say, they're definitely due for a better quarterback, I think. And if Reich thinks that he can get Wentz back to his MVP form, which he honestly probably should have won the MVP in my mind, or definitely had a strong case for it, but maybe that's a guy they take a gamble on, especially I'm not sure exactly how the cap situation rolls with how much the Eagles are going to have to pay him, but since a lot of it's guaranteed, I do believe that the Eagles are going to shoulder most of the.
Yeah, it's a large amount of dead money. Yeah. It's a lot. So there were two things. One, you're totally right about Brissett. He's a free agent after this year. And the other thing is that the thing that we have to look for, right? Like I love talking about nuance in situations. The nuance in this one that we have to look for is the Eagles might have to trade a pick and Carson Wentz to get rid of him, because no matter what you think of Carson Wentz, that contract is a cap nuke. It's an atomic bomb on your cap. And with the cap being unpredictable with what's going on with COVID and all of that, who knows what's going to happen? You can't afford to trade for Carson Wentz, even if you think he's the next John Elway, right? Because of the way his contract is structured. So that's going to be the number one thing that we're going to have to look for moving forward and see what happens, with where his contract is and what happens with that. I'm interested.
Yeah. I thought another.
Go ahead.
Before we transition, I thought another spot he could possibly go. I'm not too keen on their cap situation, although they do have a lot of aging veterans, so maybe they'll be off the book soon, is the Denver Broncos. And one thing with them is John Elway, his mold of a quarterback is a tall, strong-armed quarterback typically. Maybe not as much on the strong arm, but definitely tall. Think of these quarterbacks: Osweiler, Paxton Lynch, Drew Lock. They're bigger, they're stronger, or at least built for the most part.
They all got big arms too.
Yeah, I was just gonna say Peyton Manning didn't have the biggest arm.
But he's Peyton Manning.
Yeah, so it didn't matter in that case. And they have failed. Besides the most obvious free agent signing possibly ever for quarterback in getting Peyton Manning, John Elway has not done a good job of addressing the quarterback situation. And Drew Lock, the jury's still out on him, but as of now, he's not looking like he's a franchise quarterback. So I honestly could see them as a dark horse to get them. And like I said, they have a lot of contracts that are players who are aged. Jarrell Casey, AJ Bouye, those are
coming up there.
Yeah, so they have a lot of people that are aging, and if they want to go win now because of that, then hey, they might say let's try to take a shot on Wentz, and go for the ship now that we have Von Miller here still, and they still have Fangio's still great.
He's fantastic.
Yeah.
And they still have, Jerry Jeudy is going to be in his second year. Cortland Sutton's going to come back. Noah Fant. They have KJ Hamler, who's very talented. So there's a lot of pieces there. I think that one, that's a good one. But I don't know if they could rehab Wentz and get back to the level for the win now. Real quick, before we I got one question that'll lead us to the transition, and then I'll just answer this one real quick. We can take this one. So with this one, I talked about it on Grant's show. That's why I wanted to just bring it up again. I mean, if you want to go check it out. But basically, what I think is going to happen is there's two things that the Niners are going to do. One is invariable snap counts. So that means they're going to constantly snap the ball at different times in the play clock. Sometimes they're going to come up fast and snap the ball. Sometimes they're going to slow it down and snap the ball. Kind of what they did against the Rams last year in Week 5 with Aaron Donald playing against Daniel Brunskill and Justin School when they won that game. And the other thing I think they're going to do is a lot of window dressing. So look for a big Deebo Samuel game in this game. That means they're going to have a lot of people moving around so that the pass rush of the Washington Redskins can't just pin their ears back and rush straight up the field. They're going to want them to think. They're going to want to mess with their eyes so that they're not playing fast and they have to think. And that way the Niners can get off explosive plays.
And with that, I think one thing Shanahan does really, really good is using pre-motion snap to get a read on the defense and using the speed of his receivers like Aiyuk, like Deebo's, after the catch ability, and running a lot of misdirection. So that way they're unpredictable. And the fact that Washington, like you said, Vish, can't just go straight for the quarterback every time. They have to be cognizant of, I have to stay in my lane, and they could do end rounds or sweeps or those little touch passes from the quarterback that get the defense moving laterally and not just
right. And then the other one, this will actually segue us perfectly. This is a question about Deebo Samuel and Brandon. I don't think they're going to have a defined wide receiver one. I think the number one playmaker for their offense is going to be Deebo Samuel. He's going to be the guy that they're going to feature. Think like that first 6 weeks, Percy Harvin on the Minnesota Vikings when he was in the MVP conversation. To me, that's where Deebo Samuel could be in, year out, with better wide receiver ability. To me, if you're just talking like who's the number one corner going to guard on the 49ers, like moving forward, it'll probably be Brandon Aiyuk because he's really special as a route runner, as an athlete, great hands, everything. But I don't know if you can pencil one of them in. This is not going to be a Jerry Rice, John Taylor type thing. This is going to be two excellent weapons in the outside that complement each other, like Anquan Boldin, Larry Fitzgerald back in the day.
So I'm with you on that. I think it'll be like a 1A, 1B thing where it's like both guys are really good at what they do and it's different. So it just depends on the specific matchup on who gets force-fed more. And I'll say a comparison. You remember the Steelers when they had Juju and AB?
Yeah.
AB was, I thought, at least, and I still think to this day, that AB was the driving factor. So when I'm saying comparing those two, it'll be different. The Niners situation will be different in the fact that I think they're more equal than Juju and AB were, where AB was clearly the better talent.
But maybe like young AB, Mike Wallace?
Yeah, you could say that. Or like the Packers when they had so many receivers and all the good they would do. And it's kind of tough to say like who's the exact wide receiver one. But yeah, it's more of a 1A, 1B thing where it just depends on the matchup.
Jordy Greg Jennings, same kind of thing. So now that we got a Brandon Aiyuk question, so we're going to rank our top 5 wide receivers in the NFL rookie class this season. So we're going to go 5 through 1. We both have different rankings, I think, but I'm not sure. I mean, we kind of talked about the name. We threw out names, but I'm not sure what our ranking is. And we both have different reasons as to why we're ranking guys. So we'll talk about it. We'll debate. First, we did want to mention a couple of guys that I think both of us do not have in our top 5 and guys who have been playing really well but haven't been getting. First, Gabriel Davis in Buffalo. He's a really good player. They have a great receiving core, and he's kind of the number 4 receiver, but he's a good player. And they have Diggs, Beasley, Smokey Brown, who are all fantastic. But he's also good. What do you think of Gabriel Davis?
No, I'm with you. I think he's kind of buried on the depth chart because the Bills have one of the best. You could even probably argue it is the best receiving core.
Mm-hmm.
Diggs, Beasley, John Brown are all fantastic. So yeah, I think he's good. And then the next guy we had was Laviska Shenault on
Yeah,
the wires. So I
he's
know,
good.
yeah, talking to people who went to Colorado, they would just tell you anything about him. And the main thing was that he was their whole offense. He can play in the slot. He's really quick. And he's just a good route runner too. I think that was something that I noticed, but he's not the best on the outside from what I've
Yeah,
been told. But interested to see, especially if they take a quarterback, maybe Trask, maybe,
it'll
I'm
be
not going
Justin Fields
to
probably if they
the
pick
steps of
Paxton.
who they're going to take, but they're probably going to get a quarterback. And if not, they have Minshew to come back instead of, the carousel of quarterbacks they've had. And I think he'll be really good next to Chark in his development.
Yeah, so I think Chark is one of the most underrated receivers in the NFL. I think
Mm-hmm.
Chark is fantastic, but I've been pleasantly surprised by how good Laviska Shenault is. Kind of reminds me of Cordarrelle Patterson, like a younger
Yeah.
Cordarrelle Patterson, but a little better receiver. So yeah. And then finally, we wanted to give a shout out to a couple more guys. One is Michael Pittman. He's been pretty good since coming back from injury. He's not making our top 5, but he is pretty good. I liked him before the draft. And then the other guy, Blake, is Chicago's very own Darnell Mooney. He's a lot better than I thought.
No, I think if the Bears can ever figure out a quarterback situation, which will they ever? Probably not. But if the quarterback play and offense just improves in general from play calling and new additions, I think he's someone who, next to Allen Robinson, is going to continue to feast because Allen Robinson demands a lot of respect from any defense. And
Miller isn't bad too.
yeah, no, Anthony Miller isn't bad either. He has some drop problems, but after the catch, he's pretty explosive. And I think Mooney's a solid receiver. So those were some rookies that we just wanted to shout out and say, we're thinking about you and we know you exist too.
Yeah. All right. And number 5, who you got?
Has been good. So number 5, I'm going with Brandon Aiyuk. And it is kind of tough to say. I know we got a lot of Niners fans.
Ooh, 5.
But, I think he is a good receiver, but I think one thing that the other receivers don't really have the benefit of is playing in a Shanahan offense. And he gets used creatively. You've seen him, run the ball, jet sweeps, those touch passes that we've mentioned. But that one play against the Philadelphia Eagles, his touchdown where he hurdled the man pretty much diving into the end zone, that was special. Yeah, he has been hurt. So maybe if we had a full season healthy Aiyuk, I could, rank him a little higher. But I do think he is a really good playmaker, and he's going to be fun to watch in the league.
This is very upsetting. I promise Brandon Aiyuk is on my list, but he's a lot higher. I do think Blake made fair points about the way he's used. That does help him a lot. But for me, the thing is, I also think he's been hurt. His numbers, if you go back and watch how much he gets open and stuff just by the quarterback play he's had, I'm going to push back on this one. You made fair points, but for me, Brandon Aiyuk is higher. For me, number 5, I'm going to go with Henry Ruggs. I like Henry Ruggs a lot. I know his numbers aren't great. They're a little, just the counting numbers are a little pedestrian with the 20 catches, 396 yards, and 2 touchdowns, including one which came from Greg Williams with one of the worst calls in NFL history, given game situation and call. But for me, the reason I like Henry Ruggs is that I think he's changed life for what the Raiders do on offense. Like, they have a lot of receivers, so they're kind of a receiver by committee with Nelson Aguilar. Brian Edwards is okay to some things. Zay Jones plays snaps. Hunter Renfrow is their slot guy. But Henry Ruggs' explosiveness and the fear that he creates for opposing defenses because of his ability to stretch the field and make big plays, I would say that's the reason he's my number 5 receiver. I think he's been extremely impactful. I like Henry Ruggs a lot. I wish he was higher than 5, but man, these rookie receivers are just insane. So,
and going into draft, this was touted as one of, if not the best rookie receiver class that we'd ever had, and especially with the game moving more towards offensive rule changes favoring them. that shows it even more. And on Ruggs, so I actually didn't have him in my top 5, but I think he does add an element of just explosiveness that he has sub 4.3 speed, and it's so rare in the NFL to have that. And then also someone who's just actually good at like route running they're hard to combine. You can name on one hand the amount of people like that. So I think he'll continue to develop.
I agree with that. Real quick though, you mentioned right how this was touted as one of the greatest receivers drafts ever. I think it's lived up, but the crazy thing is, I think 2019 is better when you stack up Deontay Johnson, Terry McLaurin, DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, and Debo.
Yeah, you could definitely. I'm interested to see like the career arcs of all the players because that draft had a lot of second rounders. This one had a few first, but
yeah,
they've been spectacular in their own right. And this upcoming draft too is going to be insane for receivers. Jamar
Chase,
yeah, Devonta Smith, Waddle, Rondale Moore.
Yeah,
there's tons of just good receivers coming in, and it'll be interesting to see where they go and like what impact they can have. But pairing, if any of them go to the teams that have already drafted one of the stud receivers, like that'd be something else because they're going to be impactful. But moving on, so my 4th receiver is going to be T. Higgins, and so he's on the Bengals. They took him in the first pick of the 2nd round, and he was balling out with Joe Burrow. They have pretty good receivers now. They have him, Boyd. AJ Green is, I think, Father Time's starting to catch up to him a little bit. He's constantly got nagging injuries, and he's slowing down. But him and Burrow, that connection is serious. He's a beast at Clemson. He's amazing in Ohio, Cincinnati. So watch out for when you're watching your Burrow highlights, you're going to see a lot of T. Higgins. But I'm interested to see who you have at 4.
Yeah, that's a good one. T. Higgins didn't make my top 5, which is kind of wild because he's having a fantastic rookie season. He's fantastic. I don't know. For some reason, it was between him or Henry Ruggs for me. And I went with Ruggs just because, my 4, 5, and T. Higgins would have been 6, would have been all in the same thing. I just went with the other 2. I don't know. There's something about Ruggs' impact for what he's done for the Raiders offense that just makes me sign his way. My number 4 is Chase Claypool. I know he's been getting a lot of hype, but for me, he's only 4th. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that he gets to play in a very receiver-friendly offense, Big Ben Roethlisberger. And he plays with Deontay Johnson, who, in my opinion, is the best receiver on that offense, and Juju Smith-Schuster, who I think is overrated, but he's pretty good. And so I think he's had a fantastic rookie season. He's had a lot of plays that stand out, but he also drops a lot of passes. I think he's gotten a lot of attention because of a couple big games in kind of good situations that he's been in. He's been fortunate enough to have big games that have been broadcasted. He's a really good player. He's going to be a stud. I've heard DK Metcalf comparisons, which I would really say hold the phone on. But he's really good. He's my number 4 wide receiver. But yeah, that's why he's 4th and not higher for me.
Yeah. No, he's definitely been playing in Pittsburgh. He actually didn't make my list though. I have someone else, so we can just continue. So my number 3 is going to be Jerry Jeudy, Broncos receiver. So I know his stats have not been the best this year, and I'm boiling that mainly down to quarterback play and play calling. Coming into the draft, he was my favorite receiver. I was worried. I thought the Niners were going to take him, and that would just be lethal because I think he's better than Aiyuk, and Aiyuk has been great and exceeded my expectations. But I do think he is better than Aiyuk. I think if he didn't have just an actual carousel at quarterback, they've had Locke, they had a wide receiver play quarterback. So I think that's really hurt his and been a limit to his stats. But you saw his one touchdown against the Giants where quarterback just threw a 50-50 ball and he just elevated over the guy and just made him look bad. But it was good coverage on the play. And I think he'll be better and they're going to get Sutton back too, so that'll help take a little pressure off of him to be the only guy receiving. So he has my number 3. He hasn't put the stats up there. It'll be good though.
I don't have Jerry Jeudy on my list. I think Jerry Jeudy is a great route runner. Totally agree with you. But I think he's kind of limited in the sense that all the other guys that I named, you can throw them a 3-yard slant and they can take it 60 yards. Jerry Jeudy would run a perfect route in the 3-yard slant and pick up 10 yards. That would be my big difference. I don't know if his quarterback play definitely has sucked. It's as bad as Aiyuk. Someone said Aiyuk has had way worse. No, Drew Lock is really bad. Drew Lock struggles.
And the play calling too. Like Jeudy doesn't have the benefit of having Shanahan's scheme for him. He's got the OC, so
true. But I would argue that Jeudy can't do the jet sweep things that Aiyuk does.
Yeah.
He's not as strong a ball carrier. And my other thing with Jeudy, I just wanted to touch that is that Drew Lock really struggles to get through his progressions. It feels like he only sees one receiver on one play.
Yeah.
And so Jeudy could get open and Drew Lock never gets to him. I think it's fair. He's just not in my top 5. And so that brings me to my number 3, and I'm going with Brandon Aiyuk, the Niners wide receiver. And, Brandon Aiyuk maybe should be higher, but I'm biased to the 2 guys I have in front. So I'm going to stick that way, even though I'm a Niners fan. He's a stud. He's just a flat-out stud. I think he's the best athlete I've ever seen play wide receiver for the Niners. I was too young for Terrell Owens. Michael Crabtree was pretty good, but he wasn't this superstar athlete.
Mhm.
Randy Moss was like 38 when he played for the Niners. I think Brandon Aiyuk is the most explosive and best athlete I've seen play wide receiver for the Niners. He's a great route runner, fantastic ball carrier with the ball in his hands. He plays hard. I love everything about him. He has insanely long arms, huge catch radius, catches the ball well. The sky's the limit. He might end up having the best career out of all these guys because he plays with Shanahan in that offense and because of his skill set with having Deebo Samuel and George Kittle for the foreseeable future playing with him. So he might end up having the best career. But yeah, I think Brandon Aiyuk is just a flat out stud.
I'm with you on his ball carrier abilities. After the catch, I think he might be the best rookie. I think you could argue that. Just with the ball in his hands once he's open and in space. But I do think he's not as good of a route runner as some of the other guys.
I think he's good. He's not as good a route runner as Jeudy. I agree.
It's not a slight on Aiyuk. He's a great route runner. It's just these other dudes are somehow even better. And speaking of, who is your number 2?
Yeah, my number 2 is I'm going to go with my favorite receiver before the draft. I was hoping the Niners would take him, and that's CeeDee Lamb. I think CeeDee Lamb's production has been really hurt by playing in a bad offense in Dallas and not playing with Dak Prescott. I think he would have as good numbers as Justin Jefferson if he was playing. He's had a couple of drops the last couple of weeks that's been bothersome, but CeeDee Lamb is just special. He attacks the ball in the air. He made one of the greatest catches of the season this year against the Vikings. He's so acrobatic. He's so athletic. Talk about a guy that's really good with the ball in his hands. CeeDee Lamb is terrific with the ball in his hands. Always makes people miss. He plays so physical. I don't know how you can dislike CeeDee Lamb for any other reason other than he plays for the Cowboys. And, in my opinion, that's a very valid reason to dislike any player. No, I'm just kidding. But, yeah, CeeDee Lamb, someone put out Devontae Adams 2.0. That's who I see. A mixture of Devontae Adams and DeAndre Hopkins. He is so good.
So my number 2 is a little different than yours. I'm going with Justin Jefferson, and statistics would say that's stupid. Don't go with that because he's been statistically the best receiver easily. I really think what you mentioned with CD's quarterback play, but I'll talk about Jefferson. So they traded Diggs to the Vikings traded Diggs to the Bills for a first and then some change like 4th, 5th, and 6th rounder or something like that. And they took Jefferson, and he has filled in the shoes of Diggs and possibly even exceeded what Diggs was able to do, statistically speaking, of course. But yeah, he's been great. His route running is probably top 3 in the class. Him, CD, and Jeudy, you could honestly say any of them, and you could form a strong argument, right? But yeah, Jefferson's been killing teams with his route running, and having Thielen next to him too has been really, really good.
And Cousins has been playing great the last 8 games.
Yeah, no, he's definitely. He always does this. I feel every year, teetering forward between people say he's overrated, like he sucks, but then there's other people that point to like he's playing like an MVP right now, and I don't know. Kirk Cousins is an enigma of a player, but Jefferson has been special, and I'm scared for the Packers knowing we have to play against him for the next 5 years. So who is your number one, Vish?
Yeah, so my number one, it's right there. It's Justin Jefferson. I loved Justin Jefferson before the draft. And, someone asked a question in the comments, why did teams miss out on Justin Jefferson? Well, Justin Jefferson wasn't the fastest guy, he's not the biggest guy. He just has great hands, great routes. And he basically, the other thing is Justin Jefferson is just in a spot that really uses what Justin Jefferson does well. Like everyone says Philly, but he would have been a horrible fit for Philly's offense. Like that's not where Justin Jefferson wouldn't be Justin Jefferson in Philly because their offense just isn't good. Gary Kubiak and what they do, it's a perfect fit for what Justin Jefferson does. He's just awesome. He has great hands. He catches the ball so well. He's such a good route runner. He's physical. He's great in tight spaces. He catches the ball in traffic really well. There's nothing really bad you can say about Justin Jefferson. He's phenomenal. And I know where you're going for number one.
Yeah.
I'm a little upset with Brandon Aiyuk being at number 5. I'm a little upset with Jerry Jeudy being ahead of Brandon Aiyuk, but I think your number one is right on. At least from my standpoint, I'd be totally okay with this guy being number one. Tell us who it is.
Yeah, so I have CeeDee Lamb number one. I know it's mentioned in the comments multiple times, the catch against the Vikings. That was just like unbelievable. Unbelievable. He was running a fade route, and the ball was not where it should have been, and he came back to it and just made such a good play on the ball. And if you look at his stats when he was with Dak, before Dak's injury, I mean, he was easily the number 2 on that team. You could almost argue he was the number 1 on that team.
I'd argue he's the number 1.
Yeah, and coming into the season, people were like thinking, will he pass Gallup? Because Gallup was really, really good last year, 1,000-yard receiver, right? He passed him quick, and he passed Amari, in my opinion. So
Me too.
He's a beast. And getting back to the Anthony's question, I think one of the cons or downfalls of Jefferson in the draft was he played on this LSU offense that had studs all around. Everyone on that offense got drafted and landed on a team. Burrow was the number 1 pick. So I think that was one of the concerns with people. And, he's looked like he looked in college.
Yeah.
Absolute menace.
The other question was he was primarily the slot guy, right? Because they had Terrace Marshall was going to be like a 2nd-round pick this year, play on one side, and Jamar Chase played on the outside and the other side. And he won the Blickentoff Award. So he was basically primarily a slot guy. So I think maybe they had questions on whether he could play outside. Well, he definitely can play outside.
Yeah.
And then CeeDee Lamb was just exclusively an outside receiver for the most part in Oklahoma. And now he plays in the slot for Dallas. So they can do it all. I actually don't mind that you have CD up there.
Also, I think it speaks volume to his play that, how all the Cowboys receivers wear number 88. CD has number 88. So he's the next great Cowboys receiver is what it's looking like. I'm not going to make any absolute statements yet, but he's going to be a beast.
I don't like how he looks in number 88, to be honest. Just the side tangent. He's a little too skinny to wear number 88 for me. He's like, what does he go, like 195 pounds?
Probably.
I feel like Dez, Michael Irvin, they were like
they were bigger, like stronger guys. I don't know. I mean, if he keeps catching touchdowns and putting up 100-yard games, you can't really complain, right?
True, but I'd like to see CD. CD just preference. I'd prefer to see you in a number in the teens.
Yeah. Did you want to move on to talking about some of the game previews?
Yeah, let's talk. Let's talk. We got a lot of good games this weekend, so let's go through them.
So the first one is the Chiefs, Kansas City Chiefs versus the Miami Dolphins. So Chiefs are 11-1, Dolphins are 8-4. What are your initial thoughts to this game?
Hot take time. Miami Dolphins are winning this game. Chiefs got to lose sometime. They got to lose sometime, and it's going to be this week. Brian Flores is going to have the game plan to stop them. Xavier Howard is quietly having maybe if Jalen Ramsey wasn't in the NFL, then Xavier Howard or Marlon Humphrey would be the best corner in the NFL. He's been outstanding. Byron Jones is good. Jair is up there, but not for me. He's not.
It's tough to say for cornerback. It's hard to
Byron Jones is good. I think Brian Flores is going to have the game plan to make this offense struggle. They're going to mix it up a lot. They're going to do a lot of things. They're going to blitz sometimes. They're going to play man coverage. They're going to be physical with the Kansas City receivers. I think Byron Jones is going to cover Travis Kelce in this game. That's my guess. I have no clue. I haven't watched enough Dolphins to know if what's going on, but I would guess that Byron Jones is going to, just based on from a physical standpoint, I think he might have reps against Travis Kelce. I think that as long as the offense continues to do what they're doing, which means that Tua just takes care of the ball and they just run these bootlegs and really easy throws and make sure that he doesn't have to do much, then I think they'll be totally okay. Their offense can move the ball. Kansas City's defense, I think, hasn't been playing as good as it is the last few weeks. I expect more from Chris Jones and Frank Clark. I think they need to play better. And I think they will at some point, but I don't think it's this week. I think Miami's offense will do enough, and I think Miami's going to win this game with their defense and special teams.
So I do agree that Flores, if there's a guy who's going to have a good game plan to take down Mahomes and that potent Chiefs offense, I think it is Flores. If you remember, Mahomes' first playoff game was against the Patriots. Brian Flores was the DC. They shut him. They did really good in the first half, second half. Mahomes was just, I don't know, he's a star in the making. And, yeah, I mean, he already is a star, but that was kind of his moment where he was just killing the Patriots in the second half.
What lost the momentum in that game, though, right?
What?
They were up 14-0 with 2 long drives. They were about to go up 21-0, and a certain someone who I won't be naming threw an interception at the 1 yard line or the half yard line. And they didn't go up 21-0. If he didn't throw that pick and they scored a touchdown, I think that game would have been – you could have put a bow on it.
I mean, it could have been put a bow on it even later too. When the double agent, who was it? Who was offsides? It was D Ford, right? Yeah. Maybe a little double agent stuff there. I don't know. No conspiracies from me, but yeah, back to the game. Flores has the capabilities of stopping them, and their defense has been really under the radar. My issue with them is the offensive consistency. We've talked about it before. They're getting Gaskin back, but they don't have like a really good run game. They're not the best passing team. Like, they don't have like star receivers, or, I mean, Parker's good, but besides that, I don't think they have a lot of replaceable offensive pieces. So my issue is their offense and being able to score, because if this game goes into a shootout, do you think Tua and company are going to be able to play catch up with them? Or
no, if it's a shootout, they're going to get beat.
And see that
my thing is that I don't think they're going to get this game to a shootout.
Yeah, that's true, and I don't think they will either. But it is a possibility that does happen. So yeah, that's my big concern is Tua or Fitzmagic, like the quarterback play. I just can't trust it yet to go with the Dolphins. The next game we wanted to talk about is the Steelers and the Bills. Now, what are your first reactions or takes on who do you think is going to win? Maybe like a storyline in the game.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have to jump on a different bandwagon in the AFC if I'm going anti-Chiefs, because for me, Pittsburgh, it's just feeling a little bleak just because of all the injuries. It's nothing against Pittsburgh, not against Big Ben, not against Mike Tomlin, but the Bud Dupree injury I think hurt a lot. Now that's 2 guys: Bud Dupree, Devin Bush. I don't know how many more they're gonna be. They're not. Again, we've talked about this ad nauseum with Pittsburgh. They got screwed. They didn't get a bye. Their guys are just probably exhausted. It's rough. And my new bandwagon would probably end up being the Buffalo Bills, because I like Josh Allen a lot. I think Buffalo's going to win this game. I know a lot of people saying that, or there's two kind of comments going back and forth. One saying Steelers D is going to get smacked by Josh Allen, and then the other one saying Steelers defense are going to eat up Josh Allen. I'm going to have to go with the latter. And the one questions we had when we first started talking about Buffalo, the questions we had was, can they stop the run? Well, their defense has gotten a lot better. Getting Matt Milano back, their defense has been playing really well the last 3-4 weeks. Josh Allen is really good. He's an MVP level quarterback. Steelers are going to blitz and do those kinds of things, but I think Brian Daboll is also going to hit some explosive plays with Josh Allen against those blitzes. Josh Allen's super tough. You're not going to be able to rattle him by hitting him, and I think Buffalo is going to win this game.
So the Bills are favored, actually, which is interesting considering the Steelers are 11-1. For me, what I think is happening is after the Steelers lost, I feel like I do know they have injuries, and that is noteworthy, but I feel like everyone has been waiting for them to lose and then just be like, oh, the Steelers are for 11-1 team. They're not.
Yeah.
I feel like the people are kind of saying like the sky's falling for them, but I honestly just don't understand like that train of thought. I think they're going to win. I think they're being underrated. That defense is still nothing to joke about. And their offense too, you know, they faced a really, really good Washington football team defensive line, and I feel like the Bills is good, but it doesn't impose the same amount of force and will that the football teams does. So I think that the Steelers are going to win. I think they're being just underrated and thrown under the bus just for this first loss, and they may be overrated and may be better than the record actually indicates, but you can only play the games that you're scheduled, and I think they're going to win. I could see it going either way, but if I was forced to pick, I would say the Steelers are going to win this one.
So so even though I'm picking Buffalo, I'm right with you. The sky's not falling. Pittsburgh is still an elite team. They've been deserving. They are a very good 11-0 team, and if they were healthy, they would be that good. I think this comment is right on. They don't run the ball. Their play calling, even when James Conner was playing, they don't run the ball. Their play calling is so questionable. It's so relying on Big Ben, and Big Ben is still really good. It's so relying on Deontay Johnson. I don't think Juju Smith-Schuster is that good, but I think he's all right. But they're relying on him and Claypool. So there's just too much there. That's one. And then two, yes, I think this is a real point. Like Mike Tomlin is that phenomenal. He might be able to will him into winning this game. But at some point, I just think the fact that they can't run the ball, the fact that they're losing people on defense, I don't know if their style at this point and their offensive play calling is really what's going to get the job done here.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. But, their defense is still what it is. A top 3 unit. They still have Minka. Their secondary is still nuts. And TJ Watt, Defensive Player of the Year conversation. I know Bud Dupree has had a resurgence in his career and has been spectacular for them, but TJ Watt is still just a beast. We've talked about so they run a 3-4, right? And we've talked about their interior D-line and how special it is. I think they're going to give the Bills problems with that defensive line. I think they're going to win, like I've said. It'll be a close one for sure, but we can go into the next game, which is the Monday night game, the Cleveland Browns versus the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, I'm going to pick Baltimore in this game. It's going to be crazy, but yeah, I don't know if the Browns. I think this is the game that for me, like the Browns are good, really good. There's no doubt about that. But this for me is kind of going to give me the gauge of how good they are. Like how good are they? Like in terms of are they a Super Bowl contender? Or are they just going to make the playoffs and go? Because this is the kind of game that I'm not sure the Browns are ready for yet. Because they're a young team. Can they win a game like this? Because this is going to be grinded out. Baltimore is going to be revved up and ready to go. They're going to get a lot of people back, and it's a must-win for them for their playoff hopes. And Cleveland's coming off the highest of highs. Baker Mayfield hasn't thrown an interception in 5 games or something. But I'm not sure. Like their offensive play calling is good. I just think they're going to come with a physical edge. They're going to come with bad intentions. I'm ready. I'm revved up to see what happens for this game. I just don't think Cleveland's ready for this type of game yet. We'll see though. If they win, oh my God, it's going to prove a lot. Like if they win that game, then I think a lot of people would say, man, the Browns got a real shot to be a Super Bowl contender this year.
So I'm with you on the Ravens. If they don't win this game, it is more likely than not they will not be going to the playoffs, which is kind of crazy considering their record last year. They were 14-2, I believe. And they were just predicted this year to be even better because they got more talented players, some veterans like Yannick Ngakoue and what have you. But this is the test for the Browns that I've been waiting to see. So earlier, I think it was our first episode actually, I said I think the Browns are overrated because they usually do their job in beating the lesser teams, but against the top teams, they squander their chances usually. They got smoked by the Ravens earlier in the year. They got smoked by the Steelers. They just beat the Titans, who are a good team. The Browns match up really well against them, though, in my opinion, in the fact that their pass defense is just horrible. It is what it is. It's abysmal.
Denzel Ward is playing really well. Denzel Ward is playing like top 10.
I was saying the Titans pass D is really bad.
You're talking about I'm sorry. Continue.
I was saying the Titans pass D isn't good, but
their run D is also kind of bad.
Yeah, their defense as a whole is just simply not good. But I don't think the Browns are. I still think they're overrated. I think this is the game for them that'll, like you said, like show like their true colors. This is the first time in a long time people have had like really good expectations for the Browns that they're going to be, in the playoffs and whatnot. And I think that's a testament to what Kevin Stefanski has done as the coach. I think he's definitely a coach of the year. Someone who's going to be in that running, like in the top three. I think it's Tim Flores and Tomlin as of now. Yeah. So I'm interested to see what he does because this is one of their biggest tests in a game they're expected to win, and they have not had expectations about how big it does with a little pressure on them.
Yeah, that's the number one question, right? Will Baker Mayfield get it done? I mean, it's a wait and see. I'm gonna go Ravens. You're going Browns or Ravens?
No, I just said Baker will not get. I think when the lights are the brightest and he's playing the best of the best, I just don't think he will get the job done.
So you're definitely going Ravens, huh? But I mean, I think the matchup for the Browns is actually, it's favorable. Ravens defense, if there's a place where they're weak, it's in the run game. You can run the ball on them, and the Browns are going to look to run the ball. This is going to be the game. We'll see. I think that if the Browns are serious, this is the game that they have to win, and I'll be more than willing to come on next time we go live and be like, yeah, the Browns are for real. They're going to be a Super Bowl contender and all of that, but we'll see because I think that Lamar Jackson, he's an MVP, John Harbaugh, they're going to have something to say, so we'll see.
And I'm glad you asked this, Ryan. So I did want to highlight on our channel, although Vish is not in the videos, we have a betting guide each where me statistician give our picks for the week. My picks since we started doing it, I'm 37-21, which hasn't been bad. I've been catching some steam lately with the picks, and they've been doing a lot better. But I did want to mention out, so if you guys want to see my picks or other people's picks or just general betting in general, go check those videos out on the channel. They're pretty good. We got a new person joining us on the show, so be on the lookout for that. And did you want to talk about NBA now, Vish? I think we kind of
for sure.
NFL topic, or do you want to? Should we do some questions about NFL and before?
Yeah, let's take some NFL questions and then go there. Do we do fantasy picks? No, I mean we could. Blake could do them. I actually quit playing fantasy football this year. It just took too much of my time, so I was out.
If there's like a high demand or a lot of questions that people had about fantasy, I don't do daily fantasy. I'm in like the ESPN league, and it's changes every year. But we could do some fantasy picks if people wanted to see that, and who we have maybe like starting or sitting or love or hate list like Barry does. So that's interesting. But yeah, definitely send in some NFL questions, and we'd be very happy to answer those.
Terry or DK? I go DK.
Yeah, I definitely say DK is definitely he's better than Terry McLaurin, but that's not a slight on Terry McLaurin because Terry McLaurin in his own right is a really good receiver, and he's doing it with not the best quarterback play either. But DK is on another level right now. I mean, catapulting himself in the top 5 wide receiver combo.
Yeah.
and he's a beast. I mean, you
I got
just
a
look at
comp for.
he's a specimen.
Well, go ahead. Sorry,
I was just saying he's like an actual physical specimen. You see him and he's a beast. So
I got a comp for Terry McLaurin. Let's see what you think of it. He reminds me of Stephon Diggs.
yeah, he does. And I think something to point out with him is the Ohio State receivers. Can't guard Mike, Terry. There's been other guys that have fizzled out, but I don't know. Terry's been he's been a treat to watch.
What do I think of LaMelo Ball? I think he's gonna be good. I don't think he's gonna be a star, but I think he'll be better than Lonzo.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And my thing with LaMelo, I think he will be good. I'm not gonna. My thing with him is he has the potential to be an all-star, just 6'7" point guard who's elite ball handler. So just that off the bat is like the makings of someone who's really good. He's kind of in a wasteland in Charlotte, though. Like, they are one of the worst run franchises in the NBA, and I think that'll be his downfall more than his actual skills. If he can go to a bigger team with the better supporting cast, interesting to see. But he'll have his opportunities, and I'm excited to see him play because he does have star potential for me.
How do you feel about the Seahawks? I mean, I feel the way any 49ers fans feels about them. I don't feel like this hate or dread against them because I like watching football generally, so I like watching them too. But of course, every time that's the game I want the Niners to win. Like, if we're gonna have a bad season and we can beat the Seahawks, I'm all for it.
As a Packers fan, Seahawks, besides probably the Bears and Vikings, I don't really hate anyone much more than the Seahawks. The Hail Mary, the 2014 game that we shall not speak of.
Brandon Bostic, you remember him?
Just so much stuff with the Seahawks that annoys me. And this year, we talked about this in another video, so check that out if you want. I know this is more up to date, but the same struggles are true. Their defense is not good enough to get them to the Super Bowl, in my eyes. They don't have a great pass rush. They don't stop the run really well. Their pass defense is one of the worst in the league.
And they can't protect it with the run game. In that video, we also talked about it. I mean, they've slowed down let Russ cook because after we actually put out that video, Russ was picking up turnovers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He kind of knocked himself out of the MVP race.
Yeah, he did. He's out.
Turnovers, like, there's zero chance he's winning now. Rodgers and Mahomes are there, and maybe Josh Allen if he just goes Super Saiyan for the rest of the year. But
for me, it's Rodgers.
Yeah, Rodgers or Mahomes are what we think. And yeah, I don't know. Do you think they're going to keep Pete Carroll if they have an underwhelming playoffs? I think they will too, but it's definitely something that should be brought up. Like,
maybe it could be
change of coaching, change of scenery for him.
Yeah,
might be something that they look into. If you stay with the same team for a long time, like Mike McCarthy did, things start to fizzle, and I think they're underperforming with Russell Wilson and some of the weapons they have around him. But yeah, they're not good enough to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. Like, I think the big difference between him and Mike McCarthy is that Aaron Rodgers kind of got sick of Mike McCarthy, and I think Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll are still good to go. But that's actually a good point. Like, after a while, it's kind of the same Seahawks team, just rinse and repeated every single season. And we think it's going to be different, but the offense eventually, like, it's such a basic offense. They don't do a lot for Russell Wilson. This year, they don't even run the ball that well. So, yeah, dude, that's actually something that should be talked about a bit more. Who is better and why, Dalton or Mullins? I think it's Andy Dalton. Better arm, better thrower. He's started in the NFL for a long time and been a very good quarterback. I mean, he's been as good as 2019 Jimmy at times, and he's, to me, just a better player. He's in a bad offense in Dallas. Like, if you put him with the Niners, like, you want to talk about a bad offensive line. That Dallas offensive line has zero depth.
Might be the worst in the league due to injuries right now.
Yeah, it's horrible now that they lost Zach Martin and Tyron Smith. It's absolutely awful. Andy Dalton's just a better player to me.
So this is actually a really good question, because when I look at Dalton's career, I'm like, he's been an above average game manager his whole career in my eyes. hasn't won a playoff game. He's taken his team to the playoffs. Those Bengals teams in the early 2010s were absolutely loaded with talent. I
But
think
Dalton was also playing good ball.
No, he was. He definitely was. But I think now, I would say Mullins. Dude, I just think Dalton's older. And it could be the team because their O-line is dead and he's not, which hurt them a lot. But they do have probably the best receiving core in the league. They have Zeke, although he has been injured and slowing down. Their defense is not good, but I mean, I think I'd almost rather have Mullins at this point. I haven't seen enough to, have like a really strong opinion on them both. But at this point in their careers, I would take Mullins.
It's fair. It's fair. It's not that far off. I think for me, it comes down to the fact that I think Dalton is not helped by his offense while he's playing right now, while Mullins is helped a lot by his offense.
That's a good point. Yeah, Shanahan versus McCarthy's.
It's a little
in the play calls.
Yeah. So, Steven, we actually did this exact topic. Blake's top 3 was Judy, Jefferson, and Lamb. Right now, you got to listen to his reasoning. It sounds kind of hot when I say it like that. And then mine was Aiyuk, CeeDee Lamb at second, and Justin Jefferson first. This video will be on our channel. If you go to past live streams, it'll be there. You can check it out, or it'll show up on our videos. For some reason, it takes a little while to be processed. And then I also saw your story about Josh Allen in the comments. That was super cool.
And then the second part, what was your guys' favorite Madden to play? So for me, I've played Madden over the years, but most recently, I'd say 2016. And this was the year they introduced the aggressive catch, the rack catch, and the possession catch. I just remember the first month, the aggressive catch was so broken. There's a clip on Twitter, and this guy, he had Calvin Johnson, and the dude on defense put every single person on his team to man guard Calvin Johnson. And so the play rolls and Calvin Johnson caught the ball over everyone that was in the zone. But I don't know. I just thought that one was pretty fun because that was a cool feature they added.
I got 2. I got Madden 10, the one with Polamalu and Larry Fitzgerald on the cover. That was one of my favorite Maddens ever. And then I really like Madden 15 too.
Was that the one I was talking about? Like the one where they
No, I think Madden 16 was the one.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah. I mean, I could be wrong. It's been a while ago.
No, I don't think he would be as good. No. He's not as good a route runner and doesn't have the same hands and skill set.
But he's good. We talked about him earlier, so that check out. But he's definitely up and coming in Jacksonville if they get a new quarterback.
How did our finals go? They were good. For me, Blake has them next week. For me, they were good. I was talking about how I dread the week after when you actually have to get your grades back. I feel like your stomach just does gymnastics constantly. But I think Blake's going to go kill him next week.
Yeah, mine are next week, so I've been studying for those, so that'll be interesting to see. I did like this question. Who are your top 5 quarterbacks?
This was the one I really wanted to get to. Did you want to get to one before this?
Yeah. Well, we can do this one, and then the next one is one from it's about Mozart and Carson. So we'll do this first. But so for me, ranking cornerbacks is impossible. It is one of the hardest things to rank. Just like one example is Darrelle Revis in his prime season. He wasn't accumulating stats because quarterbacks simply wouldn't even throw the ball his way. Sherman, when the Legion of Boom was in its prime, 1/3 of the field was covered by him. And it was hard for good cornerbacks to accumulate stats because the ball doesn't get thrown their way. So I'd say in no order, this is just 5 corners that I think are just absolutely amazing. And you could honestly pivot them any which way. So I think Jair Alexander has a strong case for being a top 5, and I would put him in there. He's shut down receivers. Ramsey has been a beast. What he did to DK Metcalf was noteworthy, and everyone was talking about it afterwards because DK's been killing people, but he shut him down pretty well. It's hard to think, but Gilmore, I still think Gilmore's a beast. Tre'Davious White is in there too. And 5th, cornerback. I don't know. I can't think of a 5th who.
All right, I'll rank mine.
Top 4. That's my top 4.
Number 1, I got Jalen Ramsey. Number 2, I'm going to go with Marlon Humphrey. Number 3, I'll go with Xavier Howard. Number 4, I'll go with Bump and Run Gilmore. And number 5, I'll go with a tie between Trey White and Jair Alexander. For me, the reason Trey White is not there is because they play a little more zone defense than these other teams in Buffalo. So it's not a knock against Trey White for being a zone corner. He's still fantastic. I just think that Marlon Humphrey always guards the best player in one-on-one. Same with Xavier Howard. And Jalen Ramsey, everybody's known. Like, we saw what he did to DK Metcalf. He's just one of a kind.
I would probably say Howard's my 5th. He's been a beast. And so in the comments, people are saying Lattimore. For me, if Lattimore played against Mike Evans, he'd be the best cornerback in the world. He'd be the best there ever was. I think he's just too inconsistent, though. Like, he on national games when everyone's watching, like, he will just put on a show, and everyone's like, geez, this guy's a beast. And then there'll be games like against the Lions or something, and Marvin Jones will pop off against him. Just like
that's right on. That's the problem with Marshawn Lattimore. Everyone gets to see his good games, but game in and game out, he's not consistent. I would argue that Janoris Jenkins has been more consistent than him. It's just that he has these games that are the highest of highs when he shuts down some of the best wide receivers in the NFL.
Like Julio and Mike Evans, who, he plays twice a year.
All right, we'll take one more and then we got to go talk NBA. But Blake, you had a question that you wanted to put up.
Yeah, we could do a couple more. This one I thought was just at least interesting to think about. So, Vish, if you were starting a team and you were either given Mostert or Carson, those are the only 2 options of running back, who would you take? Because you got to factor in contract, age, longevity, injury history and all that. So who do you think?
I know it's really close. It's actually, I think Niners fans kind of overrate Raheem Mostert a lot. I think his speed's dangerous, but I think a lot of it is because of this offense, this scheme. I think that he gets hurt way too much. I don't think you can run the ball 15 times a game with Raheem Mostert. I don't look at him as a number 1 running back. And he's had 200-yard rushing games in his career. So I think he's been somewhat inflated a little bit, in my opinion. But the point is, I would still go for him. I think he's a better player than Chris Carson. It's just the fact that he has this speed. Him having a speed is one elite trait. Chris Carson has 0 elite traits to me. And so I would go with Raheem Mostert. And it's cheap.
This was a great question because when, right off your top of your head, I would say Carson. But when you think about it more, Carson's always injured. He has fumbling issues. He plays on a team next to Russell Wilson, so that takes a lot of the pressure off his, if he's running a read option, he doesn't have to worry about that D lineman crashing down in on him. Just an example there. But I still would go with Carson just due to the fact that he's a lot more proven than Mostert. I think Mostert's potential is better than Carson's. He's so much faster. But Carson's a tough runner, and he's done it for multiple seasons consistently, and that's why I would go with him. But if you went with Mostert for your team, I really wouldn't be surprised because Mostert has the potential to have an 80-yard touchdown every time he
touches the ball.
Touches the ball, yeah.
Yeah, that's right on. Mostert's also always hurt, though, and Mostert's had a fumbling problem, and he's not had that many carries in his career, and he's fumbled a lot for a guy that hasn't had a lot of carries. So this guy just keeps spamming the comments section with this better Kinlaw or Brown. I've only watched a couple of Derek Brown games this year where I've actually watched closely, and he's been really good in those games. He's dominant against the run. He's physical. He's a fantastic player. So I don't know. I think Kinlaw's been very good this year. I think people have been getting on him for no reason. I really like Javon Kinlaw. I think everybody knows that. I've talked very highly about him in the past, but I don't know for this one. I haven't watched Derek Brown enough to say, oh, Kinlaw's better for sure.
Yeah, I also have not been able to watch both players and just examine them under a microscope. But from what I've seen in Carolina, that defense does not have much talent on it. And I think Derek Brown has really helped with a lack of, talent around that on the D line. Brian Burns has been good, but it's not like they're star-studded on the defense. And I think, against the run, you cannot move Derek Brown. He is a massive human, and he's very athletic at his own size. So I would say Derek Brown, but again, I don't have a super strong opinion on the matter.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll keep answering. We'll take more questions at the end if you want to ask questions about the NFL. But we just had a couple more topics that we just wanted to cover about the NBA, namely the Russell Westbrook trade, which we thought was a big deal. So, Blake, what were your thoughts on the Russell Westbrook trade?
So this was I was surprised this actually went through to begin with. I thought it was just all just noise talking, and it actually went through. So I think at the worst for Houston, they're in the exact same spot as they were. They can't get over the hump because the point guard is not a good enough second player to help them win.
Or doesn't fit with James Harden well enough.
Yeah, but I think at the best, I think if John Wall can get back to his form that he was in on the Wizards, and that's a big if because the man hasn't played in 2 years. We haven't seen him in years. And that's the issue with me. And that's why I think this trade could go downhill fast for them is we don't know what Wall is anymore. Is he a guy who's explosive and can dunk over anybody? I don't know. We haven't seen him. So I think this was a good move for the Rockets, though, overall. I think you may as well take a chance on Wall. You know what you have with Westbrook, and it definitely was not good enough. It'll be interesting to see how he does.
Yeah, I actually have a totally different take. So disclaimer, my favorite player in the NBA since 2012 is John Wall. He's been my favorite player in the NBA. I love John Wall. He used to be the background to my phone for a while. I really like John Wall. And Russell Westbrook is also one of my favorite players. I know all his problems. I'm not totally objective to them. I just love the way he plays, how hard he plays. I know Warriors fans just despise Russell Westbrook for reasons I don't understand, but I mean, whatever. I really like Russell Westbrook. So I'll say that. I actually don't have a different take. I think that it's a loss for the Rockets in terms of trading. You're losing Russell Westbrook for a total unknown in John Wall. James Harden, whatever they're doing is not working. They already lost Rocco. PJ Tucker's a total unknown. It's just not working. I don't think they're going to be the same team ever again. It's kind of over. If James Harden wants out, it's that ship has sailed. For Washington, I think it's legit because I think Westbrook and Wall are similar players. Westbrook's more explosive. Wall is a better decision maker, better passer in the pick and roll. Wall is a little better handle and plays a little more in control. Westbrook's a more explosive scorer. But I like the move for Washington, On face value, I think Westbrook and Beal are a good enough fit to make them interesting in the East. Not good in the East, but interesting. And I think that Rui Hachimura is a nice piece. Davis Bertans can really shoot. Westbrook's not played with great shooting his entire career.
Yeah,
that was the big problem in Oklahoma City. They would never put good shooting around him. I think that's why Kevin Durant used to struggle too, because he was the only good shooter. I don't know what their obsession was with playing Thabo Sefolosha next to Westbrook. And then Andre Roberson, who, as Stephen A. Smith says, his offense is offensive. So that's one of the great one-liners in sports. But ultimately, I think it's a good move overall for Washington.
No, I'm with you that it's better for Washington because at the minimum, they actually get something that they paid for. Wall hasn't really played since he got the extension. And they've been missing him the last 2 years. Beal's been dragging a bunch of, horribly. They're really bad at defense. That's their worst. They're a really good shooting team. They have shooters all across the board. They can score at will. But yeah, they just can't stop a nosebleed on defense. So, maybe Westbrook will help them with that aspect, intensity.
We saw what my bad to interrupt you, but real quick, we saw what he did before the pandemic hit when they were really spacing the floor for him in Houston with him. And then they had 4 at least competent shooters around him and they were spacing the floor. Once the pandemic hit, he came back kind of crazy, but before the pandemic, he was going crazy.
Yeah, and he did get some injuries too, and injuries for Westbrook are kind of a death sentence because he is so reliant on his athleticism. Like his actual technical skills of shooting are just horrible. Like he can't shoot to save his life, and that's a big issue. But no, I I was just surprised it went through. To be honest with you, I really did not actually see that happening. But I'm confused as to what the Rockets are doing too. And I know we did want to talk about this also. All the James Harden news. What's your opinion on him now?
The least professional thing I've ever seen an NBA player do. And it's sad because I've defended James Harden a lot. I think you and I both like James Harden.
Yeah,
So
I
we've
like
never
James
actually
Harden a
argued
lot.
about James Harden, but there's just a lot of people that hate James Harden. I've always defended him, saying, look at all the bad teams he's kind of dragged to the playoffs. Look at how overly James Harden just plays ISO ball and all that. But they've never had competent ball handlers next to James Harden where they can relieve the pressure of him not having to do everything for their offense. They make him assist, they make him score, they make him do everything. And the one year they had somebody with Chris Paul, they were one injury away from going to the NBA Finals. So I've defended him a lot, but this is pathetic. This is so unprofessional. Yeah. Like I understand wanting out. I understand having a problem with Houston. To me, both of those things are very valid. He should want out, and he should have the leverage to go wherever he wants to go. He's James Harden. He's a superstar. But not showing up to practice and then being on the strip club tour and all of that, to me, is just nuts.
Yeah, so I'm with you. And it's made me kind of consider something or just get the idea. So when Russell Westbrook was talking about leaving the team, one of the things he said he didn't like about the Rockets is there's no accountability. And I think this is exactly what he's referring to, is people are just kind of like, James, just go do your thing. You're such a good basketball player. Do whatever you want as long as you're helping us, win games come playoff time. And if you remember back to the Dwight Howard days when he was on the Rockets, the big issue was, Dwight Howard's the problem. And then it led to Chris Paul's the problem. Russell Westbrook's the problem. John Wall's going to be the problem. So he's kind of I don't know. It's making me reconsider some of my thoughts on him, as he's the main guy and no one holds him accountable. And I think you need that if you're going to be a winning franchise.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's not much else to say.
Yeah.
It's just not much else to say.
But so guys, he's such a special talent. That's the thing that annoys me, is he honestly could definitely have a ring. But
yeah, and him scoring 37 a game is truly impressive. I don't care what anybody says. I don't think people realize how hard it is in an NBA game for him, 82 games a season, to get up 25, 30 shots. There's not a lot of players that can get up that many shots. It takes so much out of you to shoot the ball that many times. And all this, he takes in terms of the analytics, his shots are usually decent shots based on what you want to do analytically. So I have defended him a lot, but I think you basically summarized it perfectly. There's not much to say other than that.
And I will say, I don't think he's the main problem. I think them needing stars is the big issue and not winning. I think his behavior is a problem and is something that should be addressed and is being addressed, hopefully, in the Rockets locker room and whatnot.
All right, guys, if you want to throw in any more questions, we can take them for another 10, 15 minutes and then call it. All right, Sahar is relentless when he's got a question. He just keeps throwing it in the comment section. I'm going to take Fred. How about you?
So the thing is, are you taking him if you're starting a franchise? Because if you are, then yeah, I would take Fred Warner for longevity. He has the potential to be as good as Wagner.
I'm taking both right now and longevity. Bobby Wagner is still really good, but Fred Warner is better than him now, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think there's definitely an argument for Warner. He is a beast. You're an Niners fan, so you get to watch him every week. I don't get to watch him every week, but when I do watch him play Packers, he's like the anti-Aaron Jones. He actually is such a monster in the run game. He's not a liability at all. He excels in pass coverage too. And I think being surrounded by better defensive players is helping him. Seattle, besides Jamal Adams, they're kind of starved for talent. They do have KJ Wright too, but like I think the Niners defense.
Jaron Reed and Poona Ford are good up front. Jaron Reed and Poona Ford are good up front.
Yeah, no, but would you say the 49ers defense is less talented though? Like outside of those guys?
Right now, I would say like the Niners D line without Bosa, without D Ford,
with all the injuries, sure. With all the injuries,
Fred Warner is better in coverage than Bobby Wagner.
Yeah, they're definitely both. Like, don't get us wrong, they're both incredible. Probably like 1A, 1B for middle linebackers. I'm gonna go with Wagner because he's been there, he's done it. Legion of Boom days. Maybe I'm holding on to some nostalgia in that. But it's always him versus Kuechly. Now it's Wagner versus Warner. So
right, yeah, he's a Hall of Famer. So it's not a stretch to say he's better.
Yeah.
Thoughts on Kyrie Irving's attitude towards the media? I have no problems with it. See, one of my biggest pet peeves in sports in general is that I think the media has too much control on narratives on athletes. The media controls which athletes are talked about, and that means those are the athletes that get accolades. Those are the athletes that get they get awards and everything. They control how an athlete's career turns out more than their play. Like, I mean, Niners fans know this. Like, why is Bryant Young not a Hall of Famer? Bryant Young got no hype. He was on the all-decade team. He didn't get the hype he deserved because he played in San Francisco and the media didn't really talk about him. I mean, Jimmy Ward right now, why is Jimmy Ward not a Pro Bowl safety? There's like 3 safeties in the NFL that can do all the things Jimmy Ward can do. It's because the media never talks about him. They have too much control on which athletes get acclaim and which don't. And sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing. But at the end of the day, like 95% of people, including Blake and I, didn't play that sport professionally, and we are giving opinions. At least in Blake and I's case, our opinions don't really mean much, but there's actual people out there that its opinions mean a lot on what people think of certain players, and they didn't even play the sport, and they might not even know the details and the nuance of what's going on in the sport.
So I'm kind of similar. I'm more different. I don't know. I just think it's annoying more so than anything. Like, I wish you just give like the answers like, oh, our team played well and this and that. But he gives these like statements that are not clear and concise, and then the media runs away with like a narrative. Like, he'll say something like, all right, remember how he said like, I've never played with like a clutch shot maker.
Yeah.
And then the media is like, well, let's see, who has he played with in his career that's been good?
And then he blames the media for.
Yeah, so I think it's more just annoying than anything. I wish you would give like the clear-cut answers. But to your thing, yeah, the media can be annoying, but it's also one of the reasons like the revenue is so much. Like it is a necessity for the league to have the media, and I think it is too powerful. But yeah, I wish I just think it's more annoying than anything. I wish you'd just give like basic answers.
Yeah, that's actually like right on. I do want to preface, like, I went on a rant about the media. Like, they are necessary and they do a great job of doing their job. And in Kyrie Irving's case, like, a lot of his interactions are self-inflicted. I do agree with Kyrie Irving's root process and thinking. Like, to me, that makes sense. The way he goes about it is not right. He's often disrespectful, rude, curt. That's just on a human level, that's not great. But yeah, I think you summarized it perfectly.
Yeah. Any other questions you really like? Curry or
There's
Dame?
A lot in here. They're firing them in. Curry or Dame? Yeah. I'm gonna hold off to answer this one. Blake, you could go for it. I'm not answering this one for a bit.
I would say Curry, but I think it's closer than people make it out to be. Dame is spectacular, and being in Portland, it's a smaller market team, and I think that hurts. And it's not like he's been surrounded by Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Kevin Durant,
Andre Iguodala,
all those guys. But the thing that I kind of am starting to realize more is like, it's not like you can hold that against Curry. Like, you can't hold it against him that he has better teammates.
No, it's not. So let me take it from there. So it's not a knock against Curry. I would probably go Curry too. Push comes to shove, but I do think in the same circumstances, they're similarly talented players, if that makes sense. Like, because Damian Lillard, basically, the way they play basketball in Portland is they play high pick and roll basketball with Dame and CJ, and they just isolate. They have no good defensive players, including Dame and CJ. Like, man, it would kill for Dame. Would it kill them to not, like, they got Rocco now, but would it kill them to not get some defense around Dame? Like, Curry is not the best defensive player in the world. He tries hard on defense. I think people get mad when you say, but the reality of the fact is that he's not the best defensive player. But, he does a good job in his role, and it helps that you got Klay Thompson, who's lockup. Kevin Durant was an all-NBA defensive player. Andre Iguodala is elite. And Draymond Green was one of the best defensive players in the NBA for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. And I think they would be similar if Curry had to play the way Dame has to play, but he doesn't. And, at the end of the day, Curry's just a little better shooter. Or not a little better, a better shooter. And Dame's a great shooter. So I'd probably go Curry.
Yeah, and I think one thing, too, is – like, for example, 2015, when the Warriors, before, Kevin Durant got there, they played the Cavaliers, and Kyrie and Love were injured. If you put Dame on that team, like, I see no reason they could not win that series. And I think that's where people are like, Dame could have had a ring if he was in that spot, but he wasn't. He was surrounded by C.J. McCollum instead of
right.
And all that.
C.J. McCollum and Dame are both bad defenders. That's why they struggle against the Warriors, because you can trap both of them in the pick and roll, and there's nobody else on the Portland Trailblazers that can handle the ball. And then on the other side, they get torched because they're bad defenders.
I will say, though, it'll be interesting to see how Curry does. Hopefully he stays healthy, and see how he does without Klay Thompson. He has an aging Draymond Green. What's their record going to be like when Curry's going to have to shoulder the load? I'm interested to see. I think he's going to pop off this year. I think he's going to do really well in the more expanded role.
Sorry, I apologize. But
that was all I had to say.
Yeah, my bad. But for me, he has to get the 6th seed. He has to get at least the 6th seed.
Mm-hmm.
I need him to get the 6th seed. If he gets the 6th seed, then I'll never have any other questions about him as a player. And then one last thing. We did get to see Stephen Curry play high pick and roll basketball with Mark Jackson as his coach. I mean, everybody's heard Mark Jackson in the commentary. All he says is, if I'm the Celtics, I'm playing high pick and roll basketball with Kemba Walker on this next possession. If I'm the Raptors, I'm playing high pick and roll basketball and letting Kyle Lowry make a play. So that's all he says, right? And we did see that. And to me, in terms of results, in terms of who was on his team and everything, he wasn't significantly better than Dame. It was around the same thing. Is Curry a much greater player than Dame? Yeah, he has MVPs and all of that. Is he better? I would say not by that much, but he's better.
Yeah.
That was a good question.
Mm-hmm.
I like this one too.
I think their team is poorly constructed around him. I think Brandon Ingram's a really good small forward, but he's 6'7". He's like 270 pounds. So will his knees even hold up when he's, jumping 50 inches in the air? I think he will not live up to the hype. And one of the reasons is they're in the West and they need to make the playoffs. And I think that making the playoffs in the West this year is going to be, as usual, really hard. You're going to have to compare it to the East, where the Pistons have made it the last few years. Would you say they're better than the 10 seed in the West or even the 12 seed in the West? Probably not. No. They are not that much better than those teams in the West.
Why are you going at my Pistons? We had Andre Drummond.
Any team. It could be the Wizards. It could be the Madden.
Okay, there we go.
Any bottom tier, any team that's on the border of making the playoffs. So I think it'll be tough. I know they get a lot of national games, but I don't think he'll be in the playoffs. And I think he will not live up to the hype for that reason.
I mean, the NBA tried to gift them the playoffs in the bubble, right? The bubble, they had the easiest record. They had everything set up, and they still couldn't do it. I have questions with Zion, about it. Will he be in shape, his weight? Because they put out that picture, and he was not in shape in the bubble. I don't want to shame him or anything. He's a big guy, but there's a shape that he needs to be in. And
player. You have to be athletic, and he already is, but but go on.
And the knees, the thing with his knees is extremely real. The other thing for me is that, like, will he live up to the hype? It depends what the hype is. I guarantee you he's going to put up like 26 and 7 on like 59% shooting. And that's mostly because he's not going to take a shot outside of the restricted circle. And he's probably going to cherry pick up the court again. Like, he didn't play any defense last year. I don't know how much defense he'll play this year. I just question whether Zion, like, I think the hype is deserved because he's really good, but I don't think he can ever be the best player on a championship team. He's 6'7" and he's not a primary ball handler. Like, he's like, his skill set is just not there. It's not like a Luka Doncic. Even I would argue like a Joel Embiid because he's 7'2", 270, and he's got this elite post game and elite skill. I don't think Zion has that. He's not a particularly great free throw shooter. Ultimately, I don't know if he'll ever live up to the LeBron hype. I don't think he's near that, but I think he'll always be a good player. He might sneak into the All-Star game based on votes and counting numbers.
That's the thing too, is his hype was this man's going to be the best player in the NBA. And it's nearly impossible to live up to that. And I don't think he will. Do I think he'll be an above average player who makes the All-Star game? Yeah, I think he will. I definitely think he will. Do I think he'll be a top 5 player in the NBA ever? No. I don't think
either. I think he'll be really exciting, though, from a marketability perspective and all of that. He'll live up in every kind of that way. He's not going to be a bust or anything. He's going to be really good. But a top 5 player, I mean, are we talking? I think Luka Doncic will be a better player than him always. There's a few more guys that way. I even like Ben Simmons' upside more than I like Zion's upside.
It's a good question, though.
Yeah. Who's winning Rookie of the Year? You got to specify the sport, man. This is Blake and Vish Sports. We talk all sports.
NFL is definitely going to be Herbert in my eyes. The betting odds for him is he's minus 450. That means he's very heavily favored. The next highest is Justin Jefferson at plus 450. So there's a huge difference. And I think it's just the fact that he's a quarterback too. So with Burrow getting injured, I think that kind of just sealed it up that he's going to win. Unless he plays like he did against the Patriots for the rest of the year, I think it'll be very hard for him to not win it.
Who you got on defense?
I'd say Jeremy Chin.
Yeah, so I'm going to go offense Herbert. I think that one's kind of obvious. Maybe Jefferson deserves to have a higher push in the conversation. This is a quarterback who I think he's going to finish the year putting up some of the best numbers we've ever seen from a rookie quarterback. And then for me, the defensive rookie of the year is Antoine Winfield Jr., the safety for the Bucs. I don't think he'll actually end up winning it. I don't think Chin will end up winning it. It's going to be Chase Young.
Yeah.
But I think both Chin and Winfield deserve it a little more.
I think Young will win it based off of he has been really good. Don't get me wrong. He's been amazing. He's all living up to the name Chase Young. He's the second overall pick, and he plays in the NFC East, and they get a lot of media attention. But
okay, this guy also just spams everything in the comments. Do you think no? I don't think either of them will have a breakout season. I mean, Andrew Wiggins averaged 24 or 25 points a game at one point in his career in a season. So I don't think he's going to break out from there. And then Oubre averaged, 21 or 22 or 19 with –
He averaged 18.
Yeah, so I think he'll be like 15, 16.
Breaking out for them would be
like
doing a lot better than what they've already done. So Wiggins would have to average like 30 a game, and Oubre would have to average like 24, 25. And their team would also have to be like a top – I guess they really wouldn't have to be like highly seeded, but it would help. Yeah, I think they'll be good players. I do.
Yeah,
I think they'll continue to do what they've been doing. I'd say if one of them had to break out, it'd probably be Oubre. Going from the Suns to the Warriors, and there's real media attention with that.
Yeah, it's funny, though, because one of the things that bothers me with Russell Westbrook coverage is that, like, I like Russell Westbrook a lot, and I totally understand that he's difficult to play with. But I think one of the most cap things put out is always, well, this guy's numbers are better when he's not with Russell Westbrook than when he is with Russell Westbrook. Like, obviously, if you play with any other high-volume player, like, of course you're going to have better numbers. Like, Andrew Wiggins' numbers are going to be worse with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson on the floor. It doesn't mean that they're making him worse. That's such a lazy argument. It's because it's situation. Just wanted to point that out. But we got a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander question.
That's a good one. I don't think he will. I think people already know how good he is. And I feel like for most improved, the majority of the time you're like an unknown commodity. Like think of Pascal Siakam, how he just exploded onto the scene. People in the media already talk about Gilgeous-Alexander because they know how good he is and special he is. I think his stats will be increased a lot this year due to just getting more opportunities. No Chris Paul, no Danilo, so he definitely will in that regard. And I think he'll definitely be in the running for it. But he's already pretty well established, and it's hard to win that award.
Who do you think's going to win?
I think someone who would be in contention is Kobe White. I really think that getting rid of Boylan's the best thing for the Bulls and that offense. And he was towards the end of the season, his last few games, he was starting to pop off. He was starting to play really well. And I think he'll be in consideration. I haven't dug too deep into the situation or just this award in general. But I think Kobe White's a name that could be there near the end of the year.
I'm going to go with DeAndre Ayton. I think his numbers are going to get a significant boost playing with Chris Paul. Chris Paul is the ultimate floor general. He's fantastic at getting guys involved. And I think the Suns are going to have a much better record. And he's been pretty good there for a couple of years. You know, he hasn't been Luka Doncic, but he's been pretty good. I think people are going to see that. He's also a good defensive player. So
he's already averaging 20 and 10 before Chris Paul gets there. So
true.
When most improved, he'd have to do, like 25 and 12 or 13 or something like that.
So what I'm thinking is he goes like 22 and 11 with a couple blocks, but people start to see him as dominant.
Yeah.
Shai's a good favorite player to have. He's a nice guy.
Yeah. They're gonna make some noise, hopefully. Chris Paul's, I think he's underrated, honestly, man. Just the impact he has on the game, being a floor general. It's so big even at his age, and I know he has injury problems, but he's awesome.
Yeah. All right, guys, maybe we'll take one or two more questions. I mean, it's been a long day for me.
This has been coming up a lot. I'm going to say no. I think CeeDee Lamb is just different, man. I think he'll be the best receiver out of this class, multiple Pro Bowls. And Aiyuk is definitely going to be limited by the fact that Debo and Kittle are always involved statistics-wise. But CeeDee Lamb, if they have Dak or whoever the quarterback is, man, he's going to be putting up numbers.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this earlier, so if you want to go check that out, it's the link to this video is going to be in past live streams, and then after it gets processed, it's going to be in our video, so do check it out. As always, guys, subscribe to our channel. Just had to throw that in. But the thing with this is that I think maybe he's got higher upside. I mean, upside is so nuanced because it's so situation oriented. I think the thing for me is, does Brandon Aiyuk have the opportunity to have the best career out of the two? Yeah, because I think that Brandon Aiyuk's situation is going to ultimately yield to having a consistent career if he stays healthy and he just works on his craft. Shanahan's always going to put him in the best spots, and you can't really always roll coverage to him because Debo and Kittle are always going to be everywhere on the field. So I think he's got the opportunity to have the better career maybe. But in terms of talent, I would say they're similar. CeeDee's a little more polished at this point, but Aiyuk is equally talented from a physical athleticism standpoint.
Yeah. But yeah, like we said, we're going to be posting the clips to this whole live stream. So if there's one specific topic you want to see, whether that's rookie receiving class, NBA, or whatever NFL questions we have. So do check that out when it gets released.
Definitely. All right, guys, it's been a minute 30. It's been an hour 33. If you got one more question, maybe. What can CeeDee? When do you guys usually stream? Honestly, we were doing Wednesdays for the first couple weeks. It honestly depends on our school schedule. We'll probably rev it up during winter break and then slow it back down once school starts. But we'll just keep an eye on YouTube. If you haven't already followed me on Twitter, I'll tweet out when we're going to stream. But think Wednesday, Friday. Is today Friday or Thursday?
Today's Friday. So
okay,
probably next Friday we'll be doing it again. I have finals throughout the week. Don't really have the time to do a live stream, but
We'll still be
Yeah.
posting stuff from this one, and then I went on with Grant today. We'll post a few clips from there. I'll go on with Grant again this Monday. So just stay tuned. Our channel will keep putting out content.
Mm-hmm.
What can CD do that Aiyuk can't? It comes down to contested catches. Brandon Aiyuk isn't at that point yet. With CeeDee Lamb, if you throw a 50-50 ball, CeeDee Lamb's going to catch it. Brandon Aiyuk isn't there yet with 50-50 balls. And CD is just a little more polished. But
Yeah.
Aiyuk will get there.
Mm-hmm.
You got anything to add?
No, just come back next week for our stream, and then do check out some of our older videos that we recently posted. Betting guides are really good if you want just game picks or games synopsises of games. So we talk about that on the channel. Definitely check it out. We have new elements.
37-21. He's 37
Yeah,
and 21.
yeah. So I think 1 week I was 13-3 actually for the games, which pretty decent. But yeah, do check those out. Check out the other videos on the channel too for whatever topics you want, and leave some comments on the vids if there's like specific topics. I know someone mentioned fantasy football. I'd do that. Vish has knowledge on it too. So leave comments on content you guys would like us to make, and we'll try to get that done for you.
Yeah, definitely. If a lot of people want certain types of videos, we can definitely do it. I mean, we talk all things sports. So if you got basketball, if you got football, we got a couple more topics in mind. But if you have anything you want us to talk about, just shoot it out there and we'll definitely consider it. We're always in need for ideas.
All right, that'll wrap up this episode, guys. Make sure to come back next week, and thank you.